Buhle, I know that you play in the space quite a bit. You're passionate and you've done quite a lot of research around inclusion, particularly as it does come to players who play in a different market to the formal market, aka the informal market. Forget my silliness. But just your thoughts on advancing financial inclusion, particularly in Africa's informal economy.
Thanks, Fifi. I think there are two things which concern me. The first is scale. I don't think that we're moving fast enough when it comes to scale. I think we have, not to belittle the progress we've made, because as we've all said, we are seeing more inclusive banking, we're seeing more fintechs, and we're seeing the mobile money story really take root and blossom across the continent. But when it comes to products like lending or insurance and so on, I think that we need to see more scale to really start to make a dent. The second issue that concerns me, and this I think is what's really impacting women, is the fact that capital follows the path of least resistance, right? And when I look at the path to getting capital into the hands of women, I see that there are still a number of friction points, right, which we need to address. And not all of them are at a product level. So to give you a sense, as you said, we work in this sphere, working with retail banks and mobile money operators. In fact, our data engine Unify leverages mobile money and GSM data. So all these P2P transactions, with people buying airtime top-ups and so on, we use those to score people. And when we started out on this journey, our hypothesis was that because mobile money usage is growing, and especially in East Africa, ubiquitous, Ghana's actually also seen huge traction in the adoption of mobile money. So our hypothesis was that truly our platform has its doors wide open to everyone. So, about 2 years into our journey, imagine our surprise when we did a deep dive research to find out, truly beyond just what we're seeing on KYC, what percentage of our customers that we're serving are women. And the number was under 25%. We were floored. And we started to try to look to understand what on earth is going on. There are a lot of upstream issues, right? From just device ownership, even your basic feature phone. Our view had been that because you could access our product on USSD or app, that again, the doors were wide open to include all. But then you find that actually women are often sharing phones or have no access to a phone at all. So that needed to change. Then we realized that really in thinking about how you design a product, you do have to be sensitive in the entire customer journey, how the product is marketed. There were certain things, language that we used in the journey, which was causing drop-offs with women. We had to address that. We had to start to look at what are the data points that we're leveraging and in what ways do women get left behind. So I mentioned earlier that, there are certain segments where the data trails are thin. So what we might call in banking thin file. And we started to build scorecards that leverage different types of data where we'd be more likely to actually find women, and also agricultural workers, incidentally, are also typically left behind because of thin data footprints. And I think the thing that we sometimes don't think about is that generating a digital footprint actually costs money, right? You are topping up on airtime. You are sending money, which means you have money to send. And in Africa, we have a huge income problem. It's a global income problem, but it affects women even more because women typically are involved in a lot of unpaid labor, just working for the family, things like that. So they just have less money in their pockets. So all of these are barriers that you need to address. And going back to the experience, one of the other things that we found was that if you didn't have enough female mobile money agents, because, once you take a mobile money loan, you need to cash out at some point. Because in addition to being largely informal, Africa is still a fairly cash-based economy. And we found that, women wanted to have, in areas where we had more female agents, women were more likely to actually adopt the product. So, and I mean, there are myriad more frictions which need addressing. But, for me, this is something that we need to continually think about, the fact that capital follows the path of least resistance. What are the friction points that continue to exist? And the scale component, as I said, I think really, really critical. I mean, we've done about $5 billion. We've originated about $5 billion in loans on our platform. That sounds amazing compared to, smaller fintechs on the continent. But really, when you look at it in the context of the financing gap that exists for the informal economy, we've barely made a dent. And, there's so much work that we need to do, but I think these two things are really critical to address.
Okay, great insights there.